Hello, Genesis Project, and welcome to week 10. We are going to talk about faithfulness this week and what it means and what it looks like, and maybe light a little fire here for the last 3 weeks. So many of you might have seen I posted something this week, and it was something that I wrote in my journal about a year ago. And I had been really just in a season of wondering why the heck I was back in Medford. And I felt like God kept giving me this verse that said, trust in the Lord, dwell in the land, and cultivate faithfulness, and He will give you the desires of your heart. And so I had just been holding on to that and just being faithful where I was, doing what I felt like I was supposed to be doing. And every once in a while I like to look back in my journals, and I usually like to go back 1 year ago to the day and see what I was going through, because it's a really good way to see how far you've come. And so there was something that I had written in there that said, the revelation of faithfulness unto the revelation of fullness. And I myself have literally been writing page upon page upon page, and as we, I think, have just sort of taken on a term in the Genesis Project, been chewing on this idea of faithfulness unto fullness, and the realization that if I am unwilling to be faithful, which means to be steadfast, to be committed, and even in the definition of faith, the word allegiance, which means to bind yourself to a course of action, that is really the only way that we can know fullness, when we commit to the courses of action that we have said yes to. And so as we enter into week 10 of the Genesis Project, have you been faithful? Not have you worked through every single week and worked through every single video and worked through every single question, but have you yourself been faithful to the process? And that might look like you have spent the last 10 weeks faithfully digging into week 1. And that is absolutely, totally, and completely fine. And so in our commitment to faithfulness, there are going to be seasons where we are going to bear much fruit, and there are going to be seasons where we are just going to bloom and bloom and bloom and bloom and bloom, and the fruit might not come yet, but it will. And then there's seasons of pruning, and it's the same course that everything that grows goes through. A tree does not bear fruit all year round. A tree is not pruned all year round. It has its seasons for its life. And so the faithfulness in this project is diligently giving yourself to this project and doing what you need to do in order for fullness to manifest in your life. And for everybody, it looks totally different. But I wrote down a couple things as I am questioning what does it look like to finish strong in the Genesis Project. And some of us really know how to put the pedal to the metal at the end, and we've got a little bit left, or sometimes we've sort of put our pedal to the metal a little bit and we've got way too much at the end of a race. You know, you could sprint for another 10 yards for faster than you've ever sprinted because you just didn't really work very hard in the middle of it. So you've got plenty of gas at the end. And then for some people, I had written this down. Do you finish strong? Is that something that you choose to do? Or do you sort of coast through the end? Or do you never actually reach the finish? You just stop when it gets too hard or you get too tired. Or you find any and all reasons and all excuses to just not finish as to why you cannot finish. And then, or just saying, well, I already figured it out, and so I think I'm pretty much done, and there just really is no finishing. And so I know for me, I want to finish this project really strong. And so I have been digging into what does it look like to be faithful in this project, faithful to you guys, faithful to the Lord, and what I feel like He's saying is the next thing for this project, and being faithful in this because I want to see the fullness of this. And that's really been the story of my life, of what does it look like to be faithful so that I can understand fullness. And today in church, a friend of mine, Ivan, made a very interesting comment that a lot of times we don't want to get in and hack at the roots of the things that are dead in us, because the actual dead and broken parts of us is something that we actually like to hide behind. And so we don't actually want to get in and chop things off at the roots. We don't actually want to go there and deal with it, or we feel like, you know what, I've dealt with this for too long and I don't want to deal with it anymore. But that doesn't mean that it ever goes away. And so we've got to be willing to go in and chop out those roots, pull them out, and be fully done with them. But it really does take faithfulness, and it takes diligence, and it takes pressing into that. So I want to encourage you that in the place of faithfulness, and in the place of greater faith and greater belief that you actually can do this, and that you really can change the course of your life, and you really can be joyful, and you really can have peace, and you really can be truly happy, and you really can attain your dreams, and you really can do the things that you're passionate about. Where we are full of faith, fear can't reside. But where we don't have faith in things, we are afraid, and we can be afraid, and there is unbelief, there is a lack of even thinking that I can do this. But the more and more that I increase my faith that I am capable of this, the less and less that I'm afraid that I can't, or I'm less and less afraid of the journey. And so I want to encourage you that where there's faith, fear can't reside, because it's the absolute opposite of it. So where there's a whole bunch of fear, what it needs is an injection of faith. And that is super duper crazy important. And it's really easy to grow inside of a greenhouse. This is another quote that I got today that was awesome. But it's not necessarily easy to grow out in the wilderness, because it's hard and the conditions are rough, and it's not enclosed and it's not pretty. But the wilderness is where we learn to get strong. The wilderness is where we learn to press in. The dark, messy, scary, those places, when we choose to really, really get strong in those times, the next time it comes up, it's just not as hard. The stronger and stronger that we get, the easier it is to move that same amount of load, right? The stronger and stronger I get with my leg strength, the easier it is to move 65 pounds or 95 pounds. But if I never ever flex the muscle, and if I never do anything to strengthen it, it's always going to feel the same. It's always going to be that hard. But if I get stronger, the next time I go back to it, it won't be as hard. So if you really go in and you really press after the issues and the things and the stuff and the mess, and you really decide to press into it and to get stronger and to overcome it, it probably will come up again, but you will be so much more well equipped to deal with it, and it just won't be as challenging. You'll be like, oh my gosh, I used to struggle with that. Oh my gosh. Like, it just won't be that big of a struggle, because you have flexed your muscles and you have strengthened your inner self and your physical self, and you've flexed your self-control and your patience and your love and your faith and all of those things, that it's just that much easier, and it's so much easier to walk in victory in those things. But we have to be willing to be faithful and diligent in the wilderness, and in the quiet times, and in the hard things. And so I want to challenge you to be faithful. There are 3 weeks left, but you can take this and you can run with this thing for the rest of your life. But where are you being faithful, and where are you not being faithful? And are you going to finish strong? Are you going to finish strong? I'm going to finish strong. I'm going to finish strong for you guys. I'm going to finish strong because that's what I know to do. And I'm going to press in, and I'm going to be faithful, and I'm not going to be afraid of what life is throwing at me. I'm just going to trust that I am fully equipped to handle it. And God has fully equipped me to do it. And so I listen for his voice and I spend time in the word so I know where I'm supposed to be going and where this project is supposed to be going. And so I want to encourage you to be faithful. Where are you not being faithful? Where are you being faithful and you're seeing great fullness? But there's more. There's always more. There's always more. So let's go after the more these last 3 weeks, all right?